Good. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll call this a special meeting of the Montoursville Area School District Board of Directors to order on this Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. The time is 7:05 p.m. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Mr. Elbert.
Here.
Mr. Badger.
Here.
Dr. Berry.
Here.
Dr. LaCrone. Absent, sorry. Dr. Mathers.
Here.
Mr. Schimmel.
Here.
Mr. Snell.
Here.
Mr. Ulmer.
Here.
Mr. Young.
Here.
Okay, I would invite those present to rise with me, and before we pledge the flag, let's take a moment of silence to remember Coach Mike Boughton on his passing. Let's pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have the agenda. There is no presentation. So this time we'll move to public comments, and residents and taxpayers may comment on matters of concern, official action, or deliberation before the board. Each member of the public will be provided one unpaused 3-minute time frame to comment. If you approach the podium, please let us know who you are and where you live. And seeing no one approaching the podium, we'll move now to the action items for the evening. The first agenda item on P1 is the approval of the hiring of armed security guards for all Montoursville school district school buildings. Got that? Okay, so approval of the hiring of armed security guards for all Montoursville district school buildings. That's the proper reading of that. So do we have a motion on P1?
Motion approved. Second.
Any question or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh, sorry, sorry, Dan.
Moving along too quickly. There's certainly the subject matter that I think all of us have done a lot of reading about. And I just, in all the material that I reviewed, listened to the public comment and comments we've gotten from employees and students, there's no doubt in my mind that we need to have security in every one of the buildings. My dilemma is, again, I just didn't find guidelines or mention anywhere where it said these are the indications for armed security. And so I left with the conclusion that armed security within a building is there because of failure, either in your security measures to prevent an outside breach, or to a certain degree, your failure to identify internally, perhaps students that, or for whatever the reason, have felt they have no recourse but to resort to violence. I looked at the Montoursville School District, and 3 or 4 buildings, I believe, are in a very unique location. We have within minutes, within blocks, 2 separate enforcement offices where we have the borough police and the state police. But in terms of having an attempt by someone to breach the building from outside, as long as we have in place measures that are going to hinder that breaching, the response from those bodies would be almost immediate. And as far as inside, again, the response is going to be very short time period. And really, the inside scenario is again, what I've read, of course, living through so many of these horrific events. There just doesn't seem to be any necessarily stopping that initial inside, where it just, all of a sudden it's happening. All you're doing is looking to limit. And yes, an armed officer inside has that potential then to limit the amount of violence that's occurring. As I said up front, I just am at a loss to find a clear indication of why Montoursville School District need to have armed officers in our buildings. Building security, absolutely. Now, the fourth building, which is Roadside Valley, does present a different scenario. It is outside of what, okay, I have an opinion, would be a short enough response time to have an effect that I would be in full support of having armed security located at that building. It's rural by most descriptions. It has mountain ground behind it. And at this point, I know we'll continue to work on creating hindrances, creating I'll call it an outside security measure to keep someone from entering that building. I think there are, I'm not sure where all that can go with this, but I know there are plans to work on. And Dan presented to us a safety security tier system, kind of a guide to where we should be. Now, it's a guide that's being used for federal funding,
State.
state funding. Yep. But as I looked through that, I mean, I saw building security, but then I saw a lot of other things that are indicated that would be either accomplished or that we're working on. And many of those things require, funding. And where we can, we'll get grant funding. Where we're not there yet, it's something that we're going to have to fund, upfront with taxpayer money. But again, I have a dilemma in that I certainly don't want to be, I'm pro-security, but I just think that in our particular location, with the 3 buildings that are in town, we're at about as security we can be, short of, again, having an armed officer that's going to be right there when that violence occurs within. But again, the violence is going to occur if we have failure. Failure either from the outside or failure from the inside. And I'm struck by all the programming that is in place within our district to deal with that internal violence component, the identifying of students that might be at risk. That it just, it seems to me we're really on the right path there in the prevention, and the last resort would be to put an armed officer in each building. And I just don't, I can't support that as I'm all in for building security, but outside of the valley, I just don't see the need for armed security at this point.
If I could just follow up on that, given the history that I have in law enforcement and some of the, with all due respect, the comments that were just made are somewhat outstanding to me, given the fact that you're talking about limiting death or bodily injury. Not stopping it, you're talking about limiting it. That to me is astounding. How can we talk about limiting? We want to stop. We want to limit everything possible. And your statement that we are in a unique location, that a response will be immediate. There is no guarantee of immediate response. A 30-second response, a 60-second response is lives. Every second is a life with a handgun. This is a proactive approach to stem a critical incident that could affect the lives of children, parents, and the community forever. And if you remember 9/11, And you would think, okay, well, if that's the case, Montoursville Airport, well, it has a state police barracks close by, it has Montoursville Borough Police close by. Why do they need TSA? Why do you need people with guns there? That's where we're at in this society right now. And to not do it would be a dereliction of duty to the safety of our students. So, even if I didn't do what I did in my career, I believe my upbringing and my common sense approach has been, if you can stop a problem or mitigate a problem before it becomes too large, you have succeeded. Is it a guarantee that it won't happen? No, there's no guarantees. Life and death are the only guarantees you have in the world, and maybe taxes. So, with that being said, to me, this is really a no-brainer in the fact that we are providing a service not only to the children, but to the parents of the community. And if you think the state police are going to respond within 30 seconds when they have 4 guys out on a triple homicide and the barracks is empty and the only people that are in that office are the PCOs that can't leave the desk, it's not going to happen. And it happens more than you think that building's empty. And that's no knock on the state police, and it's no knock on the borough that they wouldn't be here in a certain amount of time. But if they're at Walmart wrestling with a violent shoplifter, then they have to take off. By the time they get here, exit Walmart, get to their car, get to the front of the building, get to the location of the shooter, you have lives going past you every second. So with that being said, as you can imagine, I'm for armed security and think it should have happened a long time ago.
A year ago, if you would have asked me if I would support armed security in our schools, I would have said no, for the reasons that you brought up, Dale. But after seeing the surveys, after doing research on my own, and seeing what has happened across our country, I realized that any shooter that goes into the school never plans on coming out alive. And what that means to me is he's going to take as many people he can down in the shortest amount of time. And I have to agree with you, Dave. I'm not comfortable with limiting. I'm comfortable with stopping. And I believe that every child in our district and this country is just as important as the next one. And to say it's okay to limit is not okay for me.
I guess my problem is that in an FBI study of all school shootings over a 25-year period, any study that looks at all the school shootings that have occurred in a 25-year period finds no impact of the presence of an armed guard in decreasing fatalities or injuries. So they compare when an armed guard was present and what was not present. So when you combine all the scenarios, there's no hard evidence that the presence of an armed guard reduces fatalities or injuries. I guess my other point is anyone who votes yes prepared to accept the risk of collateral injuries or casualties? So the shooter's in a group of kids. A comment was made that if a kid has a toy gun and the armed guard shoots them, that's a good shot. I guess I don't call that a good shot. I call that a horrible error. So a kid has an object that looks like a gun. Again, in the adrenaline of the moment, a child nearby gets shot, some studies find that there's actually increased risk of collateral injuries and casualties with an armed person present.
Sue, I thought about, you said that before, and I recognize that there are studies, and some are solid, but I don't know that the study gives the why. And I think the why behind why past studies indicate that it didn't make any difference is, and it was, Dave's explanations a while back helped me understand the past things were done differently. It was, you do all that command post stuff, and you're going to wait, then you're all going to go in, and now it doesn't happen that way. It's when that person is roaming our building, they hear the sound. They're going to it. Right now, they're not waiting for people coming in. They're going to it, and they're going to neutralize it.
But that doesn't happen in Parkland or Uvalde.
Well,
So,
there's hundreds and hundreds of cases, though, but I think that's the history. The people we're hiring know you're not going to wait. You're going to where that danger is, and you're going to try to eliminate the danger. That is a hallmark of why I'm for this. Is there won't be any waiting. It's going to be rescue our children, and if that means they have to eliminate and kill someone, that's what they're going to do.
There could be other children in the classroom around the shooter.
Well, that is, they're going to die. They're going to die anyway. They're going to die anyway. So we're going to stop that. We're going to prevent those other kids by the immediacy of the action of the person that's in our building. That's my hope. That's my belief. That's the kind of people we're going to be hiring, and that's the training they're going to receive. That's the training that they already have as law officers. So my confidence is in what our program is going to be done correctly. But I understand what you're saying. So, Joe, we're on P1, just discussing P1, and P1 is approval of the hiring of armed security, basically approving the program, and we're discussing that item.
Can I ask Dave a question? Can you speak to what she said about a kid with a fake gun? What does the training do in that situation? Are you going to pull out? If you think you see a gun, are you going to shoot as a state police officer?
So there's a couple of rules of engagement that have to occur. So the toy gun aspect in let's call it the real world right now. So if you go into a bank and you have a toy gun and you point it at the teller and you say, "Give me all your money," that's considered armed robbery with a weapon. Even though it's a toy gun, it's purported to be real. Okay? So the law is you get convicted of not only the bank robbery, but of the firearms violation also. Okay? So a child or a student with a toy gun, unless it was a type of gun that was able to elicit a sound, like a shot, okay? Most toy guns won't give you the loud bang that a regular gun will give you, okay? Some toy guns have then they take them off, there's the orange tip on the end of the barrel. They take them off to make them look real. And a lot of people will rob people with fake guns because they can't get their hands on a real gun, but people believe it's a gun. So it's a state of mind. So let's say, for example, that, and there's so many scenarios, and you can't even pick one of how kids are arranged in a class and where they're at and in the hallway. But let's just say, for example, you come into a police officer is searching a building for a burglary suspect, and he comes around the corner and has a gun and points it at him, and the police officer shoots him. And you find out the gun to be a toy gun. That's a justifiable homicide. So in this scenario that we're talking about, anytime a armed security police officer would shoot someone, it becomes a homicide investigation. That officer is listed as a suspect. His weapon is taken away, he's put on administrative leave. The investigation occurs, it goes to the district attorney or the attorney general, and they decide whether it was a justifiable homicide or non-justifiable. So there's where you come into the play that you're talking about. A fake gun would be a justifiable homicide because the officer believes that gun could be real. You can't wait to be shot to shoot back. So that scenario, although it has many different tentacles to it, that's the reasoning behind the toy gun believing it to be a real gun. because an officer doesn't know. There is no way of knowing if that gun is real or not real. And if he's not pointing it at the officer or at another student, then there's no reason to shoot and kill the person. There's other de-escalation techniques that are available, talking him through it. But once he raises it, that's it.
Now, what about like the Midwest kids? So you get some clueless kid who brings a gun to school to show people. I mean, so is that what the judgment was about the Midwest situation? That his intent wasn't to shoot the gun? It was just like, I have this gun, I want to be cool and show people. I mean,
Bringing a gun to school is completely different than displaying a gun and pointing at someone. Your use of force continuum, you went from 0 to 100 as soon as you point the gun. You're at 100. It's over. That's every justification is there. If I bring a gun in and it's in my backpack, is there any reason to shoot that kid? Of course not. It's in his backpack. No justification whatsoever. He has to produce it and threaten you. You match the force or go above the force against you. Is how you train.
okay, now what about in the Bishop Newman scenario? The girl was suicidal, she was bullied, she shot the girl in the shoulder, but then she handed the gun over to administration. So I'm imagining in that scenario, if the armed guard comes in when her gun is out, shooting the girl in the shoulder, she's dead, right? I mean,
I would think so, to stop her from killing that girl or any other person in there.
okay, even though it was resolved.
That, yeah, I mean, you're talking about finite details that I don't have. And that would be part of the investigation process of the homicide. But if I'm going to shoot Dave and a police officer comes in here, I have my gun pointed at his head, the police officer's shooting me. That's the rules of the Navy. It's not pretty, trust me. It's not pretty at all.
And like you said, you can imagine scenarios where it's...
I can tell you that 30 years, no two scenarios ever the same. Ever. And these guys, that if we hire these guys tonight, they'll tell you the same thing when you get a chance to talk to them.
And the chances are, the only reason why that girl got shot in the shoulder is because the shooter was a bad shot, because you can bet your butt that she wasn't attempting to just shoot her in the shoulder.
Yeah, and we're not looking to turn this into the Wild West. During the interviews, there were conversations about the use of non-deadly force. In a lot of cases, those were some of the questions that the officers we're looking to hire had. So they're going to be presented, hopefully never be presented with the scenario, but they have to make that call when they are presented that scenario.
The problem that I have with this is there is so much more that we can do to prevent school shootings, to spend our $400,000 on that are evidence-based. We could hire school psychologists for all of the school buildings to help the kids to prevent those inside incidents of school shooting. And that would have more far-reaching effect than having an armed security guard in a building in a case that this might happen. Not necessarily opposed to armed security guards in a perfect world where we had a whole lot of money, but we raised taxes for the armed security. We're taking away from education, and we're taking away from mental health issues that we could help the students with. It's not my priority.
So is the school psychologist going to prevent that student from getting a gun and coming into school?
Well, the data shows that it's more effective in preventing. You're being more proactive. You're preventing it from occurring by treating the mental illness that causes it in the first place. Nothing's 100%. You know, the armed security is not 100%. They could be in the other end of the building, and the gun that they need, more than what's on them, is locked up somewhere, and it's going to take them time to go get that. Nothing's 100%. So I'm just going by the data and what Dale shared with us via email. That FBI agent, who's the expert working on school shootings, will tell you the same thing.
Does it tell you how many school shootings were prevented because of armed security guards or a school police officer being on scene? I didn't think so.
But those kids are suicidal and they have a grudge against either the school or a kid in the school. I mean, it's not like a burglary where if one place is armed, you're gonna go rob somewhere else. I mean, whatever, 90% of the time, the kid has a tie to that specific school. So, you know, they have their built-up, pent-up grievances, they're suicidal, they worship Columbine. I guess I'm not convinced they're gonna pick somewhere else or that their brain is functioning logically enough to not do it. Because again, I think, you know, they want to go out in glory.
Well, there's no doubt that mental health has a lot to do with criminal activities. I mean, that's a given across the world. If you look at our crime rates now, and especially in our major cities, most of the crime is being committed by people that have already been arrested, are out on bail, released on no bail, and have mental health or drug issues. And is mental health important? Yes. Can we determine if someone needs help? Yeah, we should as a district. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that whatsoever. But we also, as a district, need to confront someone who would be in this building with a gun immediately. Not in 2 minutes, not in 3 minutes, not by a mental health expert. Because if we, and here is the funny thing about this, if you're against it, you have a shooter come into this building, you're gonna call 911, and you're gonna call someone to bring a gun into the building to take care of the shooter when you could already have a gun with a trained officer in the building to begin with. It makes no sense to me that you would not want that. I can't fathom that. You're calling 911 to bring that in, but you could already have it here on scene immediately. And you're against that. I can't, and I know I'm prejudiced to the law enforcement side, but I can't fathom that thinking.
One other thing I think that we need to remember is it isn't always students that are going to the school there that are the school shooters. I can think of two right offhand that the school shooters weren't going to the school that they shot up. One of them, his mother worked there, and that's the main one that I remember. And he wasn't in school. So to say that it always comes from students that are going to school there is a misnomer, because it's not that way. It's not always, and there's no way any of us sitting here can say it's going to be somebody from the inside the school that does the shooting. The same as nobody can say it's going to be somebody outside the school that comes in and does the shooting.
Right, it's usually a current student or a former student, so like, I mean.
More chances.
Someone's been suspended or.
Yeah, 3/4 are current students and another 15% are.
But not all.
No, not all, no. And you know, and in some ways it doesn't really matter. We just want it stopped, and that's all we want. We want it stopped. We want our kids protected, and that's why I'm for it, because and that's a great point you make, Dave, about we'll call them in 2 to 3 to 5 minutes later, but within 30 seconds we can be on it. Yeah, maybe it just comes down to money, I guess. You know, so okay, hi. Other board members, Todd, you been quiet down there?
Yeah, I'm just observing. So I agree with your thoughts behind it. I'm all for hardening the facility and dogging you and providing counselors and things like that. But right now, I'm trying to look at it as what's an immediate impact that I can have to protect my kids. Because I'm not a doctor in psychology, but with a master's degree in psychology, I understand there's a process involved in getting a person on track and in the right mindset or whatever. It's not a light switch. You can't just sit down with a psychologist after a week and have that person be good to go and all those negative thoughts are gone. That's just not how it works, unfortunately. I wish it was. And I actually today, I was just kind of reading through some incidences, and there was one that jumped out. This isn't a school shooting, but it's still, I believe, an 18-year-old boy in Indianapolis. He shot up a FedEx facility in March of 2021. In March of 2020, he purchased a shotgun. The mother contacted the authorities saying that she feared for her safety because her son had a history of mental health issues, diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder and a myriad of other disorders. Police came, seized the gun, put the individual in a temporary mental hold. However, in July and September, he was able to purchase more guns. Even on a mental health hold, he was still allowed, and he was seeing a counselor once a week physically, and another time during the week it was a phone conversation. So twice a week he was talking to a mental health professional about these thoughts that he was having and where his mindset was at or whatever. And even with all of those established processes in place, he still made that decision to go to that FedEx facility and shoot and kill 8 people and injure 4 others, I think it was, and then took his own life at the end of it. So I'm for getting the armed security in there. I'm also for hardening the facility, and I'm also for trying to get those more psychologists in there to help those folks out so we don't have the issue later on down the road. I think I stated this at the very beginning. I believe that us as a board, whatever we decide tonight, we charge ourselves with ensuring that the other 2 objectives that we've been talking about here are established as well. And Mr. Chairman, what you gave us last week from the security standpoint of the facility is fantastic. So that kind of gives us a great idea where we're at from a facility standpoint, and then we can start working on the counselors and psychologists as well. That's just my 2 cents.
Is the Indianapolis one the one that was racially motivated?
Yes.
And I think that's very important, Tom. When we don't lose focus of all the tools in the belt.
Yeah.
And I can't say I'm all afraid that once
We'll raise
you
it.
have the armed guard, you'll kind of relax, knowing that you have the ultimate response, on board, and maybe if the budget's tight, we don't fund some of those things, and we really need to.
I don't think that's the case though, so we have enough of you in here that are very adamant that getting a psychologist is what we need. There are some of you that think hardening the facility is what we need. We have 30 years worth of law enforcement and 24 years worth of military who I'm not going to stop, because the reason I say for as long as I did this, because every installation I was at had more than one method of protecting me while I was there. So, I mean, it only makes sense to me that we build up as much as we can to protect the kids, just like.
And I'm here to say things.
And the administration will not relax either. I think you know our position on that, from what was provided in the exec session. And as I've said all along, it's a three-pronged approach to this. It's the armed, some level of security, be it armed or not. It's your infrastructure and your mental health. And those 3 things work together to keep us all safe.
And I think what I'm hearing from the board is that we do charge you with all 3 things, and you're hearing that.
I'm in the new superintendent's academy, and that's our number 1 role as a superintendent, is the safety of our kids. And you can see from the charts that were put together where we are looking at it and moving in the right direction.
I just want to say once again, and you was there when I made this statement, that we can hire all the armed security in the world for our schools, but until the staff starts doing their part, it's not going to help. And I think you know what I mean.
Yep. And that falls under training, and that's local training that costs us no dollars. So,
Correct.
there are things we still need to do, as we were open and honest and discussed that with you guys.
Okay, board. I think we've all said a good bit about it. It was a good, healthy discussion. I'm glad we had it. So I'll call for a vote here. All in favor of approving P1, say aye. Aye. And opposed?
No.
Okay, so we have 6 ayes and 3 noes. Okay. All right, moving on then to P2. This is the actual approval of the following additions to the school security guard, effective January 3, 2023. And there will be paid training in December of 2022. And we have the names of the individuals listed there and the salaries. I'd entertain a motion for the hiring of those individuals.
Motion approved. Second.
Okay. And it's a personnel item. I don't really think there's anything that needs discussed per se.
Oh, yeah, I do want to ask a couple questions.
About the nuts and bolts of the positions, Ron, or what?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, it's not personnel.
Well, can we do that after, can we do it after we vote on the
I
hiring?
think it needs to be done before we do the vote.
All right, okay, all right.
There was a job, posting put up 5 days ago for more security. I'm curious on whether that position, if there's gonna be another position, is it gonna be a full-time one or a part-time one? Because I think we already discussed that, it might be a good idea to have 3 full-time and 2 part-time to cover the 4 schools.
4 part-time.
No, we also discussed 3 and 2. Am I correct
The
there?
option.
One of the,
When you're doing the building tour, I think was.
Right.
Yeah,
Um,
so it would have been a full board or.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm curious, since that job posting was put up again, is that job going to come forward as a full-time position or part-time position?
so we're working under 4 full-time and 2 part-time. So
Yeah,
you'll
that's
get
what I
1
thought.
full-time and 1 part-time coming back, and the captain's position isn't filled. So,
Because I'm in agreement with Roy, I think we have more flexibility if we cover one building with 2 part-timers that will, even if those are, as part-time, you can 32 hours a week. You have, 40 hours committed to a building, then you'll have the equivalent of another, 20 plus hours available if you need them elsewhere or as facilities.
If I could speak to that, being involved in the interviews and part of the whole process. The problem with that is you need the extracurricular activities, okay? And if guys are coming on part-time, they don't wanna work 40 hours. They wanna work part-time. So the object, if you hire 2 part-times, you're still gonna need another additional part-time or above, maybe 2 more, to cover your extracurricular activities that are going on during the week. Because you might have, I don't need to explain what all can go on during the week here.
We haven't discussed extracurricular. We've only been talking about, and my line of thought, 190 days and covering that school day. If we're looking to provide armed security at other events outside of this, we need to have a discussion about that because you really, to get a handle on the cost of that, I'm curious.
Well, for sure, to me, it's been, the whole time, it's been 4 full-time and 2 part-time. There has been very little conversation, you're right, Ron, Dale, on on extracurriculars and that, and And that is a nut and bolt kind of thing that we as the board, we can work out with administration. We have the motion before us to hire 3 full-time and 1 part-time. The administration's probably gonna bring additional numbers to us. If you don't like the configuration at that point, I guess you can make your point and vote it down if you don't wanna go 4 and 2. But we're not even at 4 and 2, we're at 3 and 1. So I'd say, knowing that the administration will bring more, unless the board wants to get down in the weeds and configure how we're going to do this, and I don't want to. That is not my job. Then I think we're at a point let's vote for the 3 and 1, and we can have a lot of discussions about what we want in terms of extracurricular, that kind of thing. If there's a sense that we don't want that, a consensus that we don't want that, then we'll make that clear to administration by vote or just by discussion, one way or the other. But right now, let's.
What happens if there's not a captain hired by January?
So I will add, that's what I was gonna explain here. January 3rd, if these are the only 4, they will cover, those 4 will be assigned a building. So they will cover the buildings, that'll be the priority. Extracurriculars wouldn't be covered, and the captain's job, that becomes a whole lot simpler because they're scheduled during the school day. So that captain's job wouldn't be filled. We'd continue to rely on Dave for getting us up and running on a volunteer basis.
Yeah, the superintendent.
Yep, superintendent is who they
Superintendent,
report to.
absolutely.
And in her absence, me.
Yep.
I'm kind of concerned with, Dave, with your explanation there, because I don't think we should be going through an interview process to hire another one and tell that person that it's for a full-time, and then you decide later it's for a part-time, or the uncertainty. I think the decision needs to be made, is it going to be a full-time or is it going to be a part-time, and we're advertising for it? And we don't need to be putting out hope for somebody to get hired as a full-time and find out he's going to get part-time. That decision should have been made.
Well, I thought it was. Honestly, I did. I've been operating on the mindset that it's 4 and 2. I really was, and that's the superintendent's memo to us a few weeks back. That's what I thought was being laid out, honestly. So here you're concerned about any more we bring on, and I guess we need to iron that out ASAP. But we know we need this as a minimum, right? Is that fair to say? And this is a starting point at least. So.
Yes, the number that we're going to approve tonight, would just cover 4 buildings.
Yeah.
When tonight I'm hearing extracurricular, well, how complex is your definition of extracurricular? Is it all sporting events? Is it any event that has students at it, which are concerts, which this can be, the man hours is immense. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to cover all extracurricular, who's making the call as in terms of, well, you're more important than this group?
Sure.
It just needs to define. I'm not saying I'm not
right.
against that. It just needs to define for me.
Sure.
And as I say, this is the first I've heard that you're going to cover extracurricular.
Well, I don't know we are. I mean that. My thought was, the kids are in this building because of their compulsory education. They have to be. For me, that's when I'm going to protect them, when they have to be. Everything else you don't have to do. You don't have to be at concerts. You don't have to be at football, sporting events, or anything like that.
What Dave said about covering why 2 part-timers won't work.
We've had discussions, and there's nothing on paper that the administration during our talks and interviews that has defined anything from an extracurricular. But there has been discussion that we need, or we might need, armed security at extracurricular activities. No decision's been made, but the thought is there.
How many, if you're just covering 4 buildings, school 190 days, how many part-time, you need 2 part-timers to be able to cover when there's an absence?
I would say yes.
Okay. And the part-time, not budgeting them at a certain number of hours.
No, on an as-needed basis. No guaranteed number of days, no guaranteed number of hours,
But from a budget standpoint, it'd be a cap on
as
the number
needed
of hours.
basis, yep.
Yep, okay.
Well,
And part-time personnel, as with any part-time personnel in the district, is less costly because of not having to pay for, benefits.
And from that token, I don't see no problem if you had 2 part-timers that wanted to split, full-time coverage on a building. And each of those would be budgeted at, 20 hours a week. And you go to them and you need coverage, or you even have a 3rd part-timer if those didn't want to commit to covering other buildings outside of their 20 hours. But the advantage, as Ron just mentioned, is part-timers, again, you're talking about individuals that meet the criteria to be an armed security guard. And part-time, just as an employer, has the advantage of you don't have benefit costs associated with the part-time. So that does give you an option of having some money that can go towards some of the other things we've been talking about.
I thought we were paying benefits, or paying medical insurance, it's not retirement.
I'm not aware, if you're a full-time employee, I don't see how you can not.
Yep, we're getting too far into personnel at this point.
okay, yeah. Let's, we can, we can discuss after we vote on this, we can discuss if we want to talk about our thoughts on extracurricular, what it might look like, just to give the administration the flavor of what we're thinking. But I don't, unless you're against hiring anybody, period, I think we can move with a vote on P2. So I'll call for a vote on P2 for the hiring of the individuals named. So if you want to, let's do a voice vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. So that concludes the agenda items. I guess let's discuss let's give the administration some sense of our direction on what extracurricular, what we would think would merit coverage. Because, yeah, let's do that.
I actually would prefer to have the administration bring to us what they think would be appropriate. We can start to work through it.
What's the
Rather
margin
than-
of the districts?
Well,
Gail may have his opinion, Ron's got his, but I'd like to hear what the administration is, what feels.
Yeah, I don't know.
well, Dan, was the thought that it would be extracurricular activities would also have support and coverage? Is it?
The discussion, I can tell you, so I'll give examples. Wrestling, their kids are they're in the basement, they're locked in. And I don't have the answers to these. Do they need coverage? Junior high basketball practice at McCall. Everybody's they're in the gym, building secure. Does that need coverage? This building is used a whole lot more, and it's a little more open than the other buildings. So does anything that goes on here in the evening need coverage? As far as answers to those, Christina wants it all covered, fully covered. But where is that middle ground where we're covering what's necessary? And then, does it turn into looking like we're playing favorites? There goes football, gets everything again. So we got to hear that. So, do you cover outside? Those are questions we've asked, but don't have answers to right now. So I don't want to get too much further into, because again, it's a security thing.
Sure.
But those are some scenarios.
All right.
events. Some events are more colorful than others. Loyal basketball compared to a winter concert here in the auditorium is a far different scenario. So
this, to me right now, sort of looks like a Pandora's box. I mean, I don't know where it would end. But there
Right.
has to be some limitation.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, Dale.
With the initial conversation about that, I thought we were talking about covering school hours, not extracurricular.
Yeah, tonight's the first that word was even used, extracurricular. I'd like to know, I'm curious to know if the other schools in our district, that have armed security, do they have armed security events? And
I know Loyal does.
And the reason why I asked that question is because we was told about Sullivan County having armed security, we had an SRO officer. And that SRO in Sullivan County covers all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade. Now, their elementary school is connected to their junior, senior high school. But you're talking one SRO officer, and they don't consider him armed security. They say he is an SRO officer, like our SRO officer. So I'd be curious to know.
But he's armed, right?
Yes, he is armed. He's an SRO officer that is armed.
So it's just the same thing with a different title.
But I'd be curious to know on these other school districts, how many of them actually have their armed security or their, as in the Loyal Sox case, their police force. Because don't they have Loyal Sox has their own police force? I'd be curious to know how many of them cover all activities, anything that's happening after school hours, in all the buildings. And not just Loyal Sox, all of them that was shared with us in Lycoming County, the ones that were shared with us.
How about this? If we adjourn, why don't we adjourn to an executive session, and maybe we can touch on these a little more detailed, because obviously you don't want to give away details of what you're going to do. So I think we can adjourn, and then let's continue this discussion at a deeper level, and let's start to flesh this out. I agree we should talk some more. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Well, why don't we hear from the public on what we voted on before you adjourn, and then we go to.
Yeah, we'll do that. Typically, sometimes we haven't done that, but Pam, do you wish to speak? Okay, then. All right. That's the only. I mean, I assume the other folks are okay with not speaking.
Didn't want to introduce two of the.
Well, part of me wants to just let them remain incognito, frankly. Honestly,
Okay, there are two approaches to that.
Yeah.
They're going to be around our kids.
They are, but
They're going to be in the building.
and they're going to get to know the kids. I just don't care to have it on a videotape. So.
Got it.
Okay. So. And anybody who's interested can get the agenda and do their own homework, but I'm for security. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Or not. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. This meeting's adjourned, and we'll go now to executive session. And if, gentlemen, if you want to stay for a moment just to say hello to us, we'd appreciate that. But we will adjourn to an executive session in here, which, Pam, nice to see you. And yeah, that means you have to leave, my friend.
We're adjourning, that's all.
Oh, we did. We adjourned. Yeah. And even